Me and my boyfriend were on a road trip to visit some national parks and stopped to the Burger King. Pretty late at night. My boyfriend and I went in and he went to the bathroom while I ordered food for us. The old woman at the counter took my order, but I got a weird vibe from her. I wasn't too concerned though, because most nights fast food workers seem creepy for some reason. In my experiences. After I ordered, I waited for my boyfriend to come back, but he didn't, and I don't know why. I thought something was wrong. I got the food and was still waiting, so I went to the men's bathroom. As I was walking down the little hallway, I saw light coming out of the bottom of the bathroom door. I knocked to make sure he was okay, but when I did, there was no response. Then the door suddenly opened and my boyfriend walked out. I asked him why. He didn't answer me, but he just walked past me with a glassy look over his eyes. I saw he had something in his hand and sped up to get in front of him to ask what his problem was. When I turned the corner, I saw him looking at the old woman that was working and they had this look on their faces, but I didn't hear them talking at all. When I got over there, I saw he had a piece of a broken mirror in his hand and all of a sudden he rushed towards me. I didn't know what was happening, so I grabbed his hand and I managed to knock the shard out of it. I hit the side of his head lightly because he scared me with how he was acting. Once I did, he seemed to wake up almost out of a weird state and asked what happened. I looked over at the employee and she rushed to the back of the kitchen and out of sight. Then I walked to the bathroom to see what happened when he was in there. As I opened the door, I saw an old box TV in the bathroom with a weird video playing. It had some weird shapes on the screen. I left the bathroom and told my boyfriend we should leave now. As we drove away, I explained how he acted weird when he came out of the bathroom and it seemed like he was going to hurt me with a mirror piece in his hand. He didn't remember leaving the bathroom. So we pieced together that the woman worker had something to do with the weird trance he got into. We still don't know why the woman ran to the back of the Burger King or if she had something to do with why there was a weird video playing in the bathroom. But the rest of the drive for that night we were paranoid of the woman following us or what would have happened if my boyfriend didn't wake up from what happened to him. I used to work at a Burger King. This was the creepiest thing that ever happened. One night I was working a closing shift. We closed at 10 p.m. And usually the early night hours were busy and the last couple hours were very slow. At about 8:30 p.m. a man came in. He was tall, I would say over 6 feet, and was wearing a baseball cap. I stood behind the counter and walked to the register ready to take his order. But instead of walking over to me, he walked to the back of the restaurant and sat down in a booth. I guess he must have been waiting for someone or something like that. Nobody came in the restaurant until about 10 minutes later, but that person just ordered food and then left. Over the next 30 minutes or so, I noticed that the man would often look up at me as I stood behind the counter and then quickly look away. He just seemed creepy in general from the feelings I was getting. I was working with just 2 other people at the time, my coworkers Jen and Michael, but I felt safe overall and I wasn't really worried about the man. We had about 5 more customers come in the final hour of being open, and in that time I went to work the drive-through window where we got much more customers. Finally, at about 9:55 p.m., it was time to start closing up and I went to do what I usually did, which was mop the floors and clean up the seating area a bit. Michael went home and Jen cleaned up the stuff in the back. I went out with the mop and started. I was happy to see that the restaurant was empty and the man was finally gone. The restaurant was not that dirty at all either, so it would be a pretty easy and quick cleaning. When I got to the back of the seating area, I was mopping under a booth when I thought I heard something come from behind a nearby garbage can. When I looked, I saw shoes sticking out from the side. I felt my heart start to race in my chest. I quickly walked back to the counter and told Jen about what I saw. She was in the kitchen and said that I should ask the man to leave, and if he didn't, I had to call the police. I was uncomfortable doing that, knowing he was hiding behind a garbage can, but I decided I would have to. When I walked back out from the kitchen and past the counter, I heard a noise to my right, and as I turned my head, I saw the man running towards me. He grabbed my neck and put me in some sort of a headlock. I screamed and then he put his hand over my mouth. Then we walked behind the register. The man said that he wanted all of the money. He opened up the first register and started taking out all the cash that we had. Then he moved on to another one. The whole time he had control of me by my neck. He got maybe $200 in cash, and then he said he needed to leave. He walked with me out the door and told me not to go in and call the police. Then he finally let me go and ran to his car and drove away. I walked back inside the building, but before I could even get behind the counter, I heard sirens from outside. Then Jen came running out and asked if I was okay. The man did not seem to realize that she had been working because she was in the back. She said she called the police as soon as she heard what was going on, and then she hid. When the police came, we talked to them, and only about an hour later the man was caught. I was driving home from work pretty late one night. I usually didn't work this late, but occasionally I would have really long days and not leave until 9 or 10 at night. On this night, I got really hungry. On my drive home, I saw Burger King, so I pulled off the road and into the parking lot. I didn't even check to see if they were open or if they had closed already. I just drove my truck into the drive-thru. I saw that there was a car in front of me ordering. About 30 seconds later, I saw another car pull in behind me. I waited there for about a minute and the car in front of me was still just sitting there. I was getting impatient and I looked around and I saw that most of the lights in the restaurant appeared to be off. I didn't see the person in front of me even looking out their window to place an order or anything. So I pulled out my phone and decided to see if the Burger King was closed. When I did, I saw that they were in fact closed at this hour. I wanted to leave, but I saw that the car in front of me and the car behind me were boxing me in. And the drive-through lane was very narrow with just enough space for one car. The restaurant was on the left side and some bushes and trees were on the right. I thought about getting out of my car to let the other drivers know that they were closed, but I was a little confused as to how they couldn't figure this out for themselves. I started to open my door, but I stopped when I heard a man shout something. Then a man got out from the car in front of me and another one got out of the passenger's door. I heard them speaking in another language that I couldn't understand. Then I looked behind me and I saw two more men exiting the vehicle that was behind me. They were also speaking in a foreign language. Neither car had license plates on them, but I could see they were both black Chevy Malibus. I started to get a little suspicious. The men walked to each other and then approached my truck. One man walked to each door. When they got to the windows, I saw a man look at me and say, "Get out." I asked what they wanted. He just repeated himself and told me to get out of my car. I definitely was not going to. Then the two men at my rear doors tried opening them. I yelled at them to go away, but they didn't listen. When the man at my left rear door hit the window, I decided I needed to leave. I put my car in reverse and backed up as far as I could, which was about 2 feet, before hitting the car behind me. Then I turned the wheel and drove it up the curb into the bushes. I missed hitting one of the men by only about a foot, but he moved out of the way a little and I ended up running over the bush completely and destroying it. Thankfully, I was driving my truck so it could handle it. I drove through the grass a little bit and then into the parking lot of a bank that was next door. Then I drove back onto the highway and all the way home. I still don't know what those men wanted, but I don't think it was anything good.